So I'm going to go over every question that is approaching to mastery. The exceeding, if you want help with that, you need to schedule time and come and see me in person. Um, so for this, one of the things you have to just know is when we say certain words, what does that mean? If we say discount, are we increasing or decreasing the original amount? If we say taxes, is that increasing or decreasing? So you do just need to know what some of these words are. And for this, it says a computer is originally priced at $900. If there is a 15% sale going on, how much is the discount of the computer? So here it's not asking for the final cost, it's just asking for what the discount is. And if it's a sale, that means it's going down. So not that we need to know this for right now because you weren't asked to find the total cost, but if you did, you would have to know that that's being subtracted. But to find a discount, that means we're taking 15% of the amount, so 900, and this is telling us 15% times 900. And to do that, we need to convert this to a decimal. So we move our decimal place two spots to the left. So 15% is 0.15. Of means multiply, so times 900, and 0.15 times 900 is then equal to 135. So that would be the discount that we are receiving. So since it doesn't say what's the final cost, we don't need to worry about actually adding or subtracting it. We just needed to know, well, what is our discount going to be? So it would be $135. This one for number 2. It says a pair of sneakers is on sale for 20% off its original price of $80. What is the sale price? So this is asking us, what is the actual final amount that we are going to spend on this? So we know that we can figure out the amount of discount by taking 20% of the total price, which is $80. So we can then do 0.2 times 80, which is exactly what we were just doing in that previous problem. So this is equal to 16. All right, but now what we need to figure out is a sale increasing or decreasing? And that's decreasing. So that means we are going to take the original amount and subtract whatever the sale is. So it becomes 80 minus 16, which is then going to be $64. So when we're doing this, to find how much we're paying in tax or in discount, we're taking the percentage of that number. And then we're either going to add it or subtract it depending on what it is that we're solving for. Sales, discounts, depreciation, things like that are going to be subtracting. Taxes, inflation, things like that, interest earned are going to be addition. All right, so for number 3, I'm now going to, this one is saying how much tax will you be charged? So a jacket is priced at $60 and you're paying a 5% sales tax. So just how much taxes are you being charged? It doesn't ask how much are you spending in total, it's just how much are the taxes. So to find that out, we will convert the 5% into a decimal. So here our decimal places understood to be behind that 5 since we don't see it. So we're moving it 2 places because we're multiplying it by 100. Or I'm sorry, dividing it by 100. So that is then going to be 0.05. And the final or the bill was $60. So we're taking 5% of 60, which is then going to be $3. So that's how much in taxes we will pay on that jacket. Sorry, not bill. All right, so this one says a watch is priced at $150 and there's a 22% sales tax that's added. What is the total cost? So here we are trying to figure out what is the final amount going to be. So it's going to be the original amount that we have, the 150, plus we're going to add, because it's a sales tax, so it's increasing. So we're going to add 22% of that 150. So I'm going to convert this 22% to a decimal. So it becomes 150 plus 0.22 times 150. And 22% of 150 is 33. So now we get 150 plus 33, which is then going to be $183. And that will be how much we will pay after the sales tax. All right, number 5. Here we have a service charge. Service charge is what we are going to pay for the service that they provided. So it's increasing it. So we eat at a restaurant that has a bill of $245. And we're paying a service charge of 12%. So we're adding that to our bill. So we're taking 12% of 245 and then we're paying that on top of it. And 12% of 245 is equal to 29.4. So it becomes 245 plus 29.4, which is then going to give me $274.40. All right, so that would be our final bill for that one. So for this one, number 6, it says a pair of shoes is on sale. So that means we're subtracting because it's going down for 25% off its original amount of $60. What is the sale price? So $60 is our original amount. Since we're taking a sale or a discount, we're subtracting 25% of our original amount, which is 60. So then this is going to be 0.25. So 60 minus 0.25 times 60. And 0.25 times 60 is equal to 15. So it's 60 minus 15, which is equal to $45. So that's how much we are going to pay for that. All right. So those ones are considered more of like approaching type questions. 7, 8, and 9 are more of the mastery type. I'm going to redo number 6 in reverse. So this way you can see how we can apply that to number 7, because we already know the answer to number 6. So let's just say that I gave you the ending amount. Or actually, let me erase this. Let me just rewrite it out. So we know that this was equal to 45. So let's put these to words. 60 in this problem was the original amount. So I'm just going to write the original. The minus was because it was a discount. If it was a tax, we would be adding it. So it's going to be plus or minus. This 25% was the percentage that was given to us in the problem. 25%, 8%, whatever it is, that's our percentage. 60 we know is our original amount. So it's percentage of our original amount. And 45 was what we paid at the end. So it was equal to our final or ending amount. So this is one of the ways we can solve this by creating this equation. When we go to number 7, it says after applying an 8% tax. So that means our percentage was 8. And since it's a tax, we are adding. So I'm going to write I'm going to write plus 8%. That's what we know it is so far. The final cost. So we know after all of this, it's equal to our final was based on the way that we created that problem before. And our final cost is $320. So we know after we apply this 8% tax, it's going to give us $320. What was its original amount? Well, I don't know what the original amount was. So the unknown we can represent with the variable, and let's just do X. So everywhere I see in this problem where it says original, I'm going to just replace it with X. So it's the original plus or minus the percent of the original. So it's X plus, because it was a tax, 8% of X. So now we're going to go ahead and solve this. We need to solve for that unknown, the X. So we're going to convert 8% to a decimal. So we change 8% to a decimal. We are going to then move that decimal place 2 places to the left, or it's 8 out of 100, which we know is then going to be 0.08. So it's X plus 0.08X is equal to 320. As we discussed in class, when we have these numbers in front of our variables, it tells us how many of them we have. And since these are the exact same variable, we can add them. And the number in front of this X is understood to be a 1. So 1 plus 0.08 is equal to 1.08. So this combines to give me 1.08X, because both of those were being multiplied to that unknown original amount. So it still is being multiplied to that. And now it's equal to 320. And this should just make sense as well. We know that we're adding 8% to this. And as we discussed in class, that we can treat that as 1.08 to represent our whole number plus the tax being added. And as we also discussed in class, if I give you 5 times X is equal to 20, and I asked you, well, what number times 5 gives me 20? You all knew it was 4. And the way that we can do this then is if we are multiplying two numbers, we do what's called the inverse. So we are dividing by the number being multiplied to figure out what that unknown number is. Yes, sometimes you might just be able to do it in your head, but sometimes you won't be able to. So if 1.8 times some number gives us 320, to figure out what that number is, well, we divide each side by 1.8, because 1.08 divided by 1.08 is 1. So it gets rid of that number that's being multiplied and just has a 1 in front of that X. And 320 divided by 1.08 gives us, on your calculator, it'll say 296.296. Since you're asked to be round to the 100th, we're rounding to this decimal place. So we're looking at the number after it. Since 6 is greater than 5, we round up. So when that actually rounds up, 29 will turn to 30. So x is equal to 296.30. If you round incorrectly, you'll still be considered correct because the standard is not can you round properly? It's can you apply these percent changes? So you would still be right in that case. So for 8, I'm going to show you 2 different ways of doing it. You can choose whichever way you want. It's up to you. So we can always do what we just did in the previous problem. So after a 12% tax is added, the final cost of the camera is $560. What is the original amount? Well, we know it's the original plus or minus the percent of the original is equal to the final amount. We don't know the original, so we're going to represent that by X. It's a tax, so it's added. So plus our percentage was 12%. So 12% of X is equal to our final amount of 560. Well, we know 12% is equal to 0.12. So now it's X plus 0.12X is equal to 560. So this then gives me 1.12X is equal to 560. So then to solve for that, well, if these two numbers multiply to give me 560, I can then divide by 1.12. And X is then equal to 500. So that means that our original amount before the tax was $500. Right, so that is one way we can do it. And if that's a way that makes sense to you, then by all means, continue to do that. The other way that we can do this is we can set up what's called a proportion. And I showed you this in class, and I also did this in one of the other Edpuzzle videos. And what we're learning after break, this is the method that you're going to see me use all the time. I do think this method is important for you to know because one, I think it allows you to kind of build a plan and then to make sure you're being consistent. And then also it's something that you guys will use later on of solving proportions. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about what the cost is and what the percentage is. And we're going to create 2 fractions. Our percentage is always out of 100. So the denominator of this percentage side is always out of 100. And in our case, on the other side, it's the number that we had before we applied anything to it. So this is our original amount. So in this case, we don't know the original amount, so it's X. So 100 is the total that we have, like before applying any percent or increase or decrease, and that's what our original amount is. It was the original 100%. Then in this one, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. So that when we're adding a 12% sales tax, we know it's going to be adding. So now it's going to be 100 plus 12 or 112. So it's now writing the number out as a fraction out of 100 instead of as a decimal. So instead of us adding it and being 1.12, it's 112 over 100. And then this is what we paid like after applying our percent or increase or decrease. So in our numerator, that's our final amount, which was $560. As we discussed in class, if we have 2 ratios, we know that they're equal to each other. We can multiply the opposite numerator with the opposite denominator. So we can do what's called our cross multiplying. And I showed you in class why this works, and I'll show you again why this works. But we then get 112 times X is then equal to 560 times 100. This gives me 112x is then equal to 56,000. And when we divide by 112, we then get x is equal to 500. So it doesn't matter which method you choose. Both of them will still give you the exact same answer. This one is something that we're going to use a lot more frequently when we get back from break. It's setting up what's called proportions. All right, now the last question, number 9. We're just going to do it as the equation. So it's what is the original price? So I know I'm going to go back to this equation that we've been doing. So plus or minus the percent of the original is equal to the final. So the original amount we don't know, so X. It was a discount. So we're going to be subtracting, and it's 25% discount of our original amount X is equal to the final amount, $30. So 25% as a decimal is equal to 0.25. So X minus 0.25X is equal to 30. Well, X minus 0.25, this is understood to be a 1, so it becomes 1 minus 0.25, which is 0.75. And then now if I know that these two numbers multiply to give me 30, well, I can figure out what the other number being multiplied is by dividing. So then X is then equal to 40. All right, I'm not going to go through any of the exceeding on here. If you want to go through any of these, schedule time to come and see me. Just remember that you are changing these two answers. A was 276 and B was 295.32. All right, that is it for this